N'Keal Harry was an absolute steal at 32. What are you guys talking about? Forget Tom Brady's passing numbers. He's the GOAT because he was the best punter in the NFL. I take Johnny Hecker over Patrick Mahomes to be my quarterback any day. Welcome to the No Punt Intended podcast with your host, Parody07.
Welcome to the No Punt Intended podcast with your boy, Guy, and a couple of dogs here, all right? We got the former college quarterback, LB. LB, what's up?
What's going on, fellas?
And we got the Thinking Hound.
Hey.
Thinking Hound is another YouTuber. His link will be in the description. LB is a dog that don't need know anything on YouTube, so he's just gonna be here to bless us with his prime knowledge
And terrible takes.
But anyway, so the structure of what we're going to be doing today, folks, this is obviously a parody of different sports podcasts across the airwaves and the interwebs. I'm a Patriots fan personally, and if you haven't seen my tier list, then you wouldn't know that. But if you've seen my tier list, you would know how strongly I feel about that. The Thinking Hound is our resident Kansas City Chiefs defending Super Bowl champion.
Super Bowl champs!
And we've got the team that surprisingly has stolen, or should I say been scammed into the number one pick. LB is our resident Carolina Panthers fan.
Yeah, it's not looking great. I'm not too optimistic. So we can get into that in a little bit. But,
Yeah, sounds
with
good.
that being said, hopefully, they make some good decisions. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to start with we're all going to start with the state of our teams, just kind of go over a couple things that, has happened in the off season since the Super Bowl, trades and that sort of thing. And each of us will be able to jump in with questions we might have for each other's teams if we have curiosities, because I'm obviously a self-proclaimed expert on my own team, but not on anybody else's team. And then after that, we'll get into a bold prediction. I've kind of left that open-ended for the guys, so they're going to go ahead and just pick one of whether it's their own team or just in general. And then we're going to do a 3-way mock draft. Mm-hmm. Each of us picking for our own teams. I have done way more than I should have. And I'm probably over-prepared for this and still not going to be happy with what I end up with. But from there, I'll go ahead and get started with the state of the Patriots. First thing that happened, state of the Patriots, first domino to fall, Bill O'Brien hires the offensive coordinator. It's really nice because we didn't have one of those last year. I don't know what they had. They had a kind of a Jedi Council thing going on. They thought that a bunch of people that know a lot about the Force but nothing about politics would know what to do with the politics. And guess what? They did it. Matty P is now actually a defensive guy for the Eagles as of a couple days ago. Joe Judge has been moved up to the box. That's what I like to call it. It's basically just away from the team, but still getting paid. And then obviously Bill O'Brien. Some people call it a reuniting with Mac Jones. Really, Mac Jones gave what we call an overview of the Sarkisian offense to Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien came the year Mac left, so they kind of hit a high five, and then Bill O'Brien was over the Alabama offense from that point on, and then Mac was obviously drafted by the Patriots and has done whatever he's done since he's been. I'm actually a very pro Mac guy. I think he's going to be a top 12 quarterback in the next couple years. That's not a bold prediction. I see that as fact.
It might be a little bit bold.
And then a few other acquisitions. We yoinked all Juju from you, Mr. Hound.
Oh, that's true.
And then we got Mike Gesicki and got rid of I don't even remember his name, the other tight end. We have Hunter Henry and Gesicki now, and we did have the guy from the Titans.
It wasn't
Jonnu Smith. Yeah. We got rid of him for a 7th round pick, and we're still paying him. So that I don't know what's up with that. But bottom line is we got an upgrade on the tight end front, and we're running it back on defense. Got Jonathan Jones back, Jabril Peppers back, and Devin McCourty retired. So that's going to be our biggest loss. Jacoby Myers, I should say, is now a Raider. And by the way, he is not getting paid what people think he's going to get paid, because people look at the contract when it went across the whatever they call it, the main line or whatever it is, the transaction wire or whatever. The Jacoby deal is basically a year-to-year deal, and they can basically cut him at any point. During the off season, and almost his entire contract is based off of performance. Nice. Very little guaranteed money. Juju's is a 3-year deal. There's plenty of guaranteed money with it, and that kind of is it. Some people have said it's a switch. I don't see it as a switch. It's more so we got a more professional player in the same position. With a little bit more run after the catchability. I think that's really what New England's going after. Other than that, I think the Bill O'Brien thing is going to be the biggest plus to everything that's gone on. The team, for the most part, is running the whole thing back. I still see holes at tackle. I see holes at everybody in New England wants a number 1 wide receiver, but I just don't think that's available unless you trade for one. Jerry Jeudy probably being the most likely to happen. But I really don't see it happening without us giving up our 1st round pick for that. Any questions, guys? That's pretty much the state of the Patriots. Anybody got any questions for me?
How many picks do the Patriots have this year?
We have 11, so we're on the top end of it. We've got 1 in the 1st round, 1 in the 2nd, 1 in the 3rd, 3 in the 4th, none in the 5th. 4 in the 6th, and then a 7th. So
do you think they're going to be using all of those, or are they going to be cashing those in for other players or moving up?
I would call it hubris and professional just professional idiocy to not use those to trade up. We'll see in the draft. I don't want to spoil too much, but I do see at least 2 trade-ups happening, and potentially a trade-down, depending on how the board falls. It all depends on how they see this corner class and this tackle class. I think that's going to be the 2 big things that they look at. They're going to be looking at wide receiver. The only one that I'm interested in them picking up in the first 2 rounds is Zay Flowers, but I don't see them doing it personally. There's been a lot of buzz. He's a local kid, BC guy, but I don't see him actually going.
I'll say 11 picks, law of averages. Somebody's got to hit. Bill Belichick. Those later rounds, he'll find his guy, whether it's someone we're familiar with that we at a slot receiver position. Filling that gap that you guys mentioned and stuff. Also, just to comment on that too, the 11 picks. I wouldn't be surprised if the Panthers wanted to hop in on that, maybe get some of the later rounds, try to recoup some of their draft capital that they've kind of let go in the last couple of years. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I'm not really holding my breath that it will, but that's something they could look out for. Carolina's got the 1st and then a 2nd round pick, and then they their middle rounds they've kind of gutted themselves in terms of their last few trades and acquisitions and things like that. So that could be a potential thing. But I think the Patriots are in a good spot to move around like they always do and find their guy and have to steal the draft like usual.
I love that. That's what the outside people, the fans, have been completely dissatisfied is a very kind way to put it with the drafting. The drafting has gotten much better, I think, in the past couple of years. Basically, I think since the Mac draft, we've been decent. But prior to that, there was definitely a stretch of 3 or 4 years where we were not doing well. We didn't really add much in the way of talent. The only guy that I can think of that we added that added any sort of sauce to our game was Kyle Duggar. And unfortunately, even though I think he's a fringe Pro Bowler, nobody's heard of him. But it is what it is. Obviously, the N'Keal Harry trade is the bane of every Patriots fan's existence. Here's hoping that we don't make the mistake again. But I definitely see them moving around a lot. This is a deep tight end class, is a deep corner class especially, and I think we need a corner. Our tallest corner that'll actually for sure be a full-time corner is 5'10". The Jalen Mills is 6'1", I think, or 6 foot, and the idea of bringing him back the way we did, I feel like, was for him to play safety. So. Yeah, we need somebody. I think ideally in the second round or early third round to add some size. It doesn't have to be a lockdown guy. It just needs to be a guy that we can as a matchup piece. Somebody we can put up against T. Higgins, somebody against Devontae Adams, Kelsey, those sorts of players.
Yeah, you don't have to have anyone against Kelsey. It's fine.
Well, I tell you, we have game planned for your offense on multiple times, and if we only played a half of football, we'd be undefeated against you guys. But because we play 2 halves, unfortunately, there's been some losses in there.
Yeah, that's the Mahomes magic. He may not look good, or the team might not look good in 3 quarters, but 1 quarter we look amazing in, and that makes up for it.
Yeah, I can't stand those 30-point quarters.
It's almost unstoppable.
Almost. All right, LB, let me hear about these Carolina Panthers. And I know you got some particularly spicy takes on some of what's going on with that. So let me hear it, dude.
Those spicy takes are perfect because obviously, you know me, I love my Texas Pete. Shout out.
Yes, sir.
From North Carolina, not from Texas for all those listening. Just your random trivia for today. But yeah, so Carolina's had a rough go of it the last couple of years. Last year was encouraging, being basically 1 game out of the playoffs, getting hot at the right time. Had a really great win against the Lions at home. Then went on the road down to Tampa and ultimately, lost to the GOAT down there and missed the playoffs by a game. But, all things considered, you had Matt Rule get fired and you had an interim guy, Steve Wilkes, who was a Charlotte native, been on the squad for forever. Super great coach, defensive-minded guy. But I think he got the boys fired up, and they were really playing for him, which was totally different under Matt Rule. I was not a Matt Rule guy. I didn't think he deserved, just based on his resume in college, to get a head coaching position. I think that was a premature hire. They gave him a ton of money. I think a 6-year deal, $70 million or something like that. So that obviously hurt. But, that's bygones who get bygones. I think David Tepper, he's an aggressive owner. Obviously, so we can get into this year, they hired Frank Reich, who was the Panthers quarterback way back in the day. So it's super cool to come full circle. It'll be the first offensive-minded head coach in franchise history.
Wow.
We had John Fox for forever and Ron Rivera, and then Matt Rule, who was, a glorified college head coach in the NFL. I wish him well back in the college game, but I'm glad he's not on the team anymore, leading the charge. So, yeah, it was. I was surprised that Carolina traded up to 1 from 9. Obviously, that's probably the biggest headlines this offseason, other than letting go of your 2 best offensive weapons, McCaffrey and DJ Moore. That hurts. I was big on both of those guys, first round picks for us, and for whatever reason, Carolina felt like they had to make some moves and get to number 1. And, obviously that trade with the Bears happened. And personally, I think they gave up too much. Mm-hmm. I think this, first overall pick is going to make or break the franchise for the next 4 or 5 years. If you hit, great, then you're a genius. If you get your guy who's, let's say it's Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, and they're your 10-year starter and that you get to the playoffs and you're competitive, that's a win by all means. But I think they're way over leveraged, and whoever they pick is in a really tough spot just based on everything they gave up to go get him. And they gave up their 9th overall this year to get to 1. They gave up a 2nd rounder, a 3rd, and then a 1st rounder in 24 and a 2nd rounder in 25, and DJ Moore, which I don't understand why you're giving away your number 1 wide receiver if you're going to get a quarterback. Yeah. You have to have somebody to throw the ball to. I know they signed Adam Thielen. I'm a big fan of that acquisition. I think it'll help the team. I would like to have him and DJ. Yeah. I think that's kind of the model right now. You see in the NFL, you have a 1A and a 1B receiver. I think DJ is someone who he can run every route. He can take the top off of a defense. And you can have Adam work in the slot as well as outside. We saw that in Minnesota for a while before Justin Jefferson exploded onto the scene. So I was sad to see DJ go, and I didn't understand that. Just in terms of, from the offensive standpoint, you got to have a guy, and he was our guy. And then, you get rid of McCaffrey. I'm a huge McCaffrey fan. I think he was our offense when we were stinking it up. He was the workhorse. He, righted a lot of wrongs in terms of just what he could do. I think we underutilized him and misused him a lot of those years, especially going back to the Cam days, trying to run him between the tackles too much, not getting him in the slot on those mismatches with outside linebackers or using more motion and getting him outside and things like that. Obviously, he's proven he can run the football in the league. He's multiple 1,000-yard rushing seasons. He went 1,000 a couple years ago. Absolute dog by every measurement. But of course, that was sad to see him go. Hope he does well in San Francisco. But yeah, I just think they're in a unique position at number 1. Obviously, they're drafting a quarterback. You can't give up all of that and not go get a quarterback. And if they somehow don't get a quarterback, I might jump off of a bridge. It just doesn't make sense to me. No,
offensive tackle looks pretty,
Well, we drafted one last year, Icky, from NC State. I think it was like the 7th overall.
What's his last name?
Akwamu, I believe.
Okay.
I'm probably butchering that. But he's an NC State guy. Nice. From the area. And based on that 1 year last year, I think he'll be a good left tackle and really anchor that offensive line for the years to come. But yeah, I don't know. I'm holding my breath. This has kind of been the theme being a Panthers fan. You kind of pray for the best and prepare for the worst. Yeah. I'm excited about the coaching staff. They have a lot of experience. Yeah. Frank Reich, I think he's a great coach. Say what you will about the Carson Wentz stuff back in the Colts days, but I think he'll be good for a young guy they bring in and brings a lot of experience. I'm excited. He's an offensive-minded guy. I think that's what you need to be successful in the league right now. So, yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I have my personal opinions on what I think they should do at number 1 in terms of drafting quarterbacks, and we can get in that now or later, whatever.
Probably a little bit later.
We can wait on that. But, yeah, we'll see how it goes. It'll be interesting. I think it's really just between 2 guys at number 1, and that'll kind of dictate the rest of the draft. So that's just kind of how I'm at right now. It's just anxious waiting and hoping that we have a good season. Obviously, they let go of Dante Foreman to the Bears. We used to be the Buffalo Panthers. Now it seems like it's the Chicago Panthers letting everybody go. We won't pay our own guys. He was a great running back for us. I know we signed Miles Sanders and all that, which is good. Obviously a good pick, but we still have Chuba on the squad. He's okay. He's serviceable. He's not a Deontay Foreman by any means, but not many people are. I like that big running back. I think it was a good back to rely on. You need to get some tough yards. You can really grind the team down. Yeah. And put games away late in the year. You have to be able to run the ball the league despite teams throwing the ball 50, 60 times a game. It really, if you can't run the ball, you're in a tough position. So
I agree.
Hate to see him go. Like to pick up a Miles Sanders. It seems like we just picked up a lesser version of McCaffrey's talents. Yeah. Which is fine, But I just hate seeing these guys go that if you keep around and pay, you could really been in a really good position to win the NFC South because I think it's wide open. I don't think there's a clear-cut number 1. I wouldn't be surprised if it's, a 3-way race in week 14, 15 for that first seed, which ultimately, that'd be a success. You win your division, get into the playoffs. that's not unachievable this year.
Yeah.
Even though the Saints brought in Derek Carr and things like that. But, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. No, I will say one thing is that, like, playmakers don't matter that much to a team if you don't have a quarterback, right? It's like it really doesn't matter until you get that quarterback. And once you have a good quarterback, you don't need amazing playmakers then. You know, it kind of goes hand in hand, you know?
Yeah.
So I didn't love the trade that the Panthers did for the first round overall pick because that was a lot to give up. But if Frank Reich, I'm assuming Frank Reich wants his own quarterback that he starts with, that he mentors and builds up. And if he's really confident about one of these two guys, then, you know, you kind of have to take that chance.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to defer to the guy. I mean, they're head coach in the NFL for a reason. He's got, 10 times the experience I'd ever have at any level of football. So obviously, you got to take that with a grain of salt.
But it was a lot to give.
Yeah, as a Panthers fan, you're sitting here, it's like, I mean, common sense. Like, okay, I understand you got to have a quarterback. There's only a certain amount of guys that can do it at that high a level to make you an elite team. But again, they're only as good as the weapons around them. And if they have no one to get open or throw the ball to, it's like, all right, well, we invested all this and he's not, we're not getting a return on the investment because we can't get the ball out to our playmakers because we traded them all away. We'll see. But no, I agree. You gotta have a guy. So like I said, if they hit and they get a 10-year starter,
yeah,
and they win the division a couple years and get to the playoffs, it'll be a success, all things considered. And, I think Panthers fans will be happy with that. It's just a bitter taste in our mouth right now because it's so uncertain. And these guys who are proven studs in the NFL are playing elsewhere. And that seems to be the theme for Carolina the last couple of years. They draft these guys, they get them on their rookie deals, especially the offensive guys, and then they let them go. So that's frustrating. But, like I said, we'll see what happens.
This league is a very win now league. And
I blame the Rams for that. I really do. Like the Rams traded everything basically, and it worked out for them, to get a Super Bowl anyways. But yeah, now everyone's doing it. So.
Yeah. As the draft has gotten closer, I'm hearing more and more about next year's draft. Drake May and a few of the other dogs playing quarterback that are going to be available in the draft next year. Marvin Harrison Jr., going to be available as a wide receiver next year. Does it hurt more that you lost a first-round pick for next year or that you gave up a previous first-round pick in DJ Moore?
I mean, I think DJ, because he proved himself as a guy in the league, obviously having picks is super important. You got to have you get especially picking a quarterback, you see it with Pat Mahomes and Herbert and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. You get these guys on their rookie deals and they hit and you barely build a team around them and you get them cheap, and so obviously that's a good way to develop and have long-term success at the quarterback position. And DJ, I think we picked him like number 24 overall, and he was a stud for us. I mean, I think he was kind of a under the radar guy, quiet 1,000-yard receiving, and I think really because we didn't have a household name at quarterback, lighten up the stat sheet. But I think that one hurts more just because he'd proven he can play, and you're letting go of a guy who contributes to your team year in and year out. Picks, obviously, first rounders bust all the time.
Right.
I mean, we saw a couple years ago the Eagles took Jalen Reagor one pick ahead of Justin Jefferson, and I think they're probably kicking themselves right now. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, but
and now they're both on the Vikings.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just hard getting rid of guys who've proven themselves.
Sure.
Who've contributed, who, you get them on their deals and things like that. You get them, you could hopefully get them to an extension and things like that and really build. It's just hard to build a team if you're constantly in turnover and you're shipping key pieces out of the building and looking elsewhere to bring them in. Like, I don't understand the philosophy of, you draft for a reason. You should have a long-term plan in place for these guys once they hit, like a Brian Burns, like a Derek Brown, like a Icky, like a Jeremy Chin, like DJ Moore, like McCaffrey. Some of those guys aren't on the team anymore. And they haven't even hit their 5-year career mark.
Yeah.
6-year career mark if you're McCaffrey and DJ. But and obviously the defense, they've done that with the defense, so which is odd. They've kept these guys. They drafted Derek Brown at, I think he was 8. They drafted Jeremy Chin. I think he was an early second round. They drafted Brian Burns. He was a top 10 pick for us. And they've signed him. They understand the value that you get in the draft at those positions. On defense, I just wish they'd have that same philosophy on offense for the quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, things like that. So
yeah, I guess they just value where they value the market.
Right.
You're talking premiums of positions with right now at wide receiver, and that sort of thing. And it's like, and when you have a difference maker like McCaffrey that can play receiver, that can play inside as like a power back and be a difference maker as like an outside zone guy too. And at the time you had him paired with Cam Newton.
It was filthy.
Yeah.
Rob, man, that Monday night 2018 game against Steelers, TJ Watt, you really screwed us, man. And that year is when the organization was like a tipping point in recent history for us.
Yeah.
They were 6-3. They were charging for the playoffs, and then boom, I think they ended up like 7-9. Cam got hurt. That started the quarterback carousel. They've had I think at this point, signing Andy Dalton, they've had like 9 different guys on roster, not including the number 1 pick, which obviously is all signage league to a quarterback. So. And none's hit. We've had gap fillers. We brought in. Sam Darnold, he's a 3rd overall pick.
Teddy B.
We brought in Baker, which I didn't hate, all things considered, but it was like...
It just didn't work out.
No. You're trying to make a bad situation as good as possible, and the problem is when you do that, you get to your position in now, and you feel like you gotta, mortgage the house to go buy a new toy, and it's like nothing's... set in stone, so we'll see.
Yeah, you got rid of the house, the boat, and the car.
Man, we got rid of bank accounts, the trucks in the driveway, the lake house, everything. We got it all. The bank's got it, man. Well, who knows?
That 2018 Panthers team was one of those teams that might have been. You had Cam Newton under Norv Turner that year. Yep. And he was having his best passing season of his career. Yep. You had Greg Olsen in his prime.
My dog, Greg.
And then you had McCaffrey and DJ and the other guy, Samuel, right? Curtis Samuel.
That's another one. It's been so long. They let him go to the Commanders, formerly the Redskins, for anyone that doesn't know. But I think he's like a 2nd-round pick for us. And he and DJ were great friends, dude. That's nothing that hurt. Like, you get a good locker room guy, you get good continuity in the offense, and then he was productive for us. He wasn't the number 1, but he was like a solid guy by all measurements. Like, he could make plays, and like what could have been, you could have had a 1A and a 1B with those guys and let them develop. But again, we shipped him out of town, and he was productive for us, and he did what he was supposed to do, and at least I think so. Obviously, they thought otherwise because they would have kept him around with that, but. Yeah, that's another great example of the guy bringing in, being successful, all things considered, and getting shipped out of town. So it's been frustrating watching the Panthers offense last couple of years. Defense has been good enough. They're competitive. They keep us in games, and the offense just blows it. So
now, from the people that ship everybody out of town to the people that put 10-year mortgages on their players for $500 million. All right. Mahomie.
Yes.
Let me hear about him.
Yes. So I think I can't remember because I know Jalen Hurts just signed a contract.
Yes.
As the most paid quarterback in the league. So does that knock Mahomes to like the 5th most paid quarterback in the league right now?
He's still top 5.
I think he's like 4th or 5th now.
Yeah.
Which, hey, that's a good deal for the Chiefs at the moment.
Right.
But yeah, if you look at the Chiefs, the biggest deal is trying to find players cheap to work around the Mahomes contract. Even though people say it's a great whatever, it's still a lot of money. So that's kind of been the whole focus is how do you build a team when you know you're going to be paying $500 million? And you've also got Chris Jones coming up. He wants a longer-term contract. So if you want to pay him, well, you've got to get cheap players everywhere else. So that kind of led us to having Orlando Brown Jr. walk. And then we signed a tackle from the Jaguars, who was less proven, but we signed him for more money than Orlando Brown got with the team he signed for. So I don't really understand that logic. But in all honesty, Orlando Brown had a bad year the last year with the Chiefs. Like he's a good run tackler, run blocker, but he's not a good pass protector. And if there's one thing about the Chiefs, they always pass the football.
Facts.
So it's like, if you're not good at pass blocking or is not as good as you should be, well, we can find somebody better. But we've got a new offensive coordinator now. Eric Bieniemy left for the Commanders, and now we've got Matt Nagy, which I love. I love Matt Nagy. He was the Bears head coach. He was our offensive coordinator in 2017 when Alex Smith had that really good year with Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill. It was an amazing year. Like, Alex Smith threw for over 4,000 yards, which was like his career highs in basically every statistic. And I'm really excited to see what he does with Mahomes. But the big question that everyone or a lot of Chiefs fans have is, are we going to pick a wide receiver, right? Because there's rumors about us maybe signing or trading for DeAndre Hopkins, which we'll see if that happens. I'd be a little bit surprised if it did, because we've been, trying to go cheaper or, short-term contracts with our wide receivers, because we traded away Tyreek Hill. We brought in Juju on only a 1-year contract. So to bring in a big Pro Bowl, Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins, he's going to want a lot of money, I think. If he's willing to just play for a year and then, get a big contract after that, I think the Chiefs might be tempted to do that. But I wouldn't be surprised if he signs somewhere else, because I think there's going to be other teams that are more desperate. But if that's the case, there's a few wide receivers in this class that the Chiefs have been working out with. Like, they had Jay Flowers, the guy. He worked out with Mahomes.
Yes, he did.
I think even Quentin Johnston worked out with Mahomes too in Texas. So there's a few options there. I'm not too picky. I'm one of those people who, I do not believe you need to draft a wide receiver super early for them to be good. Like, we've drafted wide receivers historically late in the draft. Like, we got Tyreek Hill in the 5th round, and a lot of our wide receivers are late round draft picks or undrafted, and they've done fine. So I don't know if we'll spend a early round draft pick on a wide receiver, but they might, just because we're at home during the draft. It's in Kansas City.
That's true.
Union Station. And it's a lot more hype if you draft a wide receiver versus an offensive tackle, So I think that might play a part into it.
Okay. My understanding is DeAndre Hopkins has come out and specifically stated that the Bills and the Chiefs are two of his preferences, because he has a no-trade clause. So he gets to choose where he gets traded to, if he gets traded at all or cut. And he's also said that money is not the end-all, be-all for him. So I would be less surprised than I think you would be.
Interesting,
and I'm really tired of him being linked to New England, so get it over it. Because the second that it became like common knowledge that he could potentially get traded, like, everybody in New England was like, we need D-Hop. The whole thing with like pairing a quarterback with a difference maker wide receiver, Jalen Hurts with A.J. Brown, Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. I was going to make a joke, but I tell you what, if Justin Fields and DJ Moore turn into something, then that formula has a lot more weight to it than I think. Because me personally, I think Joe Burrow would be good with or without Jamar Chase. Patrick Mahomes would be good without Travis Kelce, and he's already proven to be good without Tyreek Hill. And I think Jalen Hurts has been slept on his entire career, and I think him making it to the Super Bowl was his statement to let people know that he's him. And
that contract would reflect that.
I would say so. And
the fact that Jalen Hurts gets a long-term contract before Lamar Jackson is very funny.
I don't want to turn this into a Lamar Jackson show either. That's a conversation meant for analysts that are a lot smarter than all of us.
I just had a question. So you mentioned earlier just about not wanting to get, potentially using an early round pick on a receiver prospect, which I understand. That makes sense, But I believe you have the 31st overall pick. Would you, as a fan of the Chiefs, what would you feel if they traded that for D-Hop and maybe some other late round picks, or maybe some other serviceable guys, so that you get maybe your true number one guy who's proven to be a real threat in the league, even though he's aged a bit. But would you feel better about that than drafting a guy at 31 if you gave it up?
Here's what I would say. I would not give a first-round draft pick for DeAndre Hopkins. Now, obviously, if there's a whole whatever, right? You know, if there's other players involved, you know, who knows? But the reasoning would be, I would rather draft a wide receiver with the 31st pick over DeAndre Hopkins because of the contract. Because you get a cheap contract for, I think if you're in the 31st, you still get a 4-year at least.
You get 4 years with a fifth-year option.
With a fifth-year option.
Yeah.
You know, while if you get DeAndre Hopkins, I doubt you get one for that, and definitely not the same price.
No.
You know? Right. So I would rather, because again, as the Chiefs, we're having to look in the future because our salary cap right now, if the salary cap exists in the NFL, like who knows? Like they can do whatever they want. So does it really exist? Like when teams can be millions of dollars like under or over the salary cap and they're still allowed to sign players? I don't get it. Yeah. But if the salary cap's a real thing, we have to think about it 5 years from now because Mahomes' contracts is only going to get more expensive because it's building on itself. And we got to get these cheap long-term contracts so we don't have to worry about it, right? Yeah. So I would be more in favor of signing a wide receiver with the 31st. And I don't have anything against it. It just has to be the right one.
Right. I also would say that right now you already have your difference maker big guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's what Diop is on the wrong side of 30. And he's never been a speed guy to begin with.
No.
I mean, in his prime, he was burning some guys, but his whole thing was that he was going to outrun you with his route running, his smarts, and his size.
Yeah, his catch radius.
Yeah.
It's gigantic. Though in a 10-foot radius, he's going to get a hand on it. It's like,
and to me, the way you maximize the talent that is Patrick Mahomes is to have speed guys.
Yeah.
The Mecole Hardmans, the Tyreek Hills.
Yeah.
We don't talk about MVS, but but I think somebody like Zay Flowers, I think would be a really nice pickup. I was very disheartened to hear that the other day when that Zay was working out with your boy.
Yeah.
I am
one wide receiver I love, but he's not going to drop down to 31st is Addison. I forgot his first name. Jordan Addison.
USC.
He fits very well with the Chiefs system. He just does. Johnston. A lot of mock drafts have the Chiefs picking up Johnston for some reason, which is fine. He's a slow big guy, and we don't really need that.
No.
So, anyways,
the other person I like is for you guys that I would hate for New England, to be honest, is the guy out of Tennessee, Jalen Hyatt.
Oh yeah,
fast wide receiver. And that was
a guy too.
Yeah,
pretty big build from what I.
Yeah, his game was 100. I mean, Tennessee ran a very smoke and mirrors offense, very unique, and it was one of those things where he would either run a go ball or sit at whatever yard line that he got told to sit at. And the Tennessee offense ran a bunch of option routes as well. I don't know if he was involved with that because he was the speed guy on the outside. And I think he was used more as the guy that was the big play guy or the outlet that could break into that. But he's already known for, because you guys are notorious for having those speed guys just run those big slanting overs, across the face of the safety, and especially now where it's not like Tyreek where they respect it anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's right now it'd be an unknown, and all the safety focus is going to be on Travis. So you're going to have a guy that's going to be running wide freaking open unless they're playing man. That way. So I see that, and he's going to be available second, third round. So I think that would be an ideal pick for you guys.
No, I agree. Because right now our only deep threat really is MVS. Mecole Hardman signed somewhere else. We don't have
Jets.
Yeah, the Jets. Which we'll see who's passing for him.
I know who it's not going to be. Zach Wilson.
But maybe Zach Wilson needs to go into a cave and do some meditation. Like Aaron Rodgers. But like right now we only have MVS for our deep threat. We have Sky Moore, but he's kind of been a disappointment. But it's only been 1 year.
He's a slot guy.
Yeah, it's only been 1 year, so who knows? Right now it's all Travis Kelce. So we have Kadarius Toney.
That's true. People are forgetting that.
If he can, stay healthy.
Pacheco.
Yeah, Pacheco,
Another threat.
Yep, and looks like the Chiefs are going to get rid of Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Mm-hmm.
We hate him. So, like, the organization absolutely despises Edwards-Helaire because he's gotten worse every single season. And his first season wasn't even that great, but it's just gotten worse every single season. And running backs do not get better as they age.
That's true.
So, and he's in his 4th year.
He's a former first-round pick. Wasn't he? 32nd.
Yeah.
And that was when they basically, I thought they were taking the best available, what they thought was the best available. So
and that's when we didn't even have really a running back. So.
Right, yeah. So, I would say that probably hadn't worked out for the best for both parties involved. But
come to New England, LA. We'll all you need to do is block for us on 3rd down and get open, man.
Yeah.
The hardest thing we'll ask you to do is run a quick slant for us.
Hey, Jerick McKinnon's still in free agency right now, and he was amazing with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
If there's one player I want the Chiefs to re-sign, it's Jerick McKinnon. Mm-hmm. He had 8 or 9 receiving touchdowns. Like, that's going to be something you have to replace.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the one bright spot on my dynasty fantasy league. The one pickup that actually worked out. But starting with Hound, I want to hear your bold prediction for the coming, either the draft, the Chiefs, or just the league in general.
Okay, so for the draft specifically, not counting the Chiefs, my bold pick is that Will Levis, the quarterback, will drop out of the first round. I don't think he'll get picked in the first round. I wouldn't even be surprised if he's not even in the top 50.
Yikes.
I think he's going to drop. The only team that seems to have any interest in him is either the Texans or the Colts, but it looks like the Colts will probably pick somebody else instead of. And if the Texans do not pick him, I don't see any other team picking him.
That's fair.
There's always, like, mock drafts love quarterbacks, but they always do worse than they say. They always do. Like Malik Willis last year, everyone had him going first round for the most part, maybe late in the first round. He went to the 3rd round.
Yeah.
And
mistake, by the way.
Yeah. And like Johnny Manziel dropped.
Lamar fell all the way to the Ravens.
Yeah, but like there's quarterbacks that drop in the real draft. Quarterbacks drop. Outside of your first couple, I just don't see 5 quarterbacks going in the first round.
Yeah.
And that's what most of these mock drafts have. But I just don't see that happening. What about you, LB?
Well, my bold predictions also for the Well, obviously, I'll start with the Panthers. And it's not necessarily as much of a bold prediction as it's what my heart's telling me as a Panthers fan. I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina takes C.J. Stroud at 1 over Bryce Young. I don't think that will happen. I was set on C.J. Stroud, and to be frank, I don't particularly like Ohio State quarterbacks. I don't. If I were the GM, if I were in charge of this draft, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't trade the 9th overall pick. I wouldn't go up and get a quarterback. Personally, you won 7 games last year with Sam Darnold. I know that's not a popular take. You want a flashy guy. But if you get another round of draft picks in and really build your team and not feel like you have to reach, I feel like, in a way, Carolina and David Tepper and all these guys feel like they have to go get a guy. And you do. Don't get me wrong. You have to get a guy. I just don't know if there is a sure thing. I mean, there never really is a sure thing. I guess most recently you would say Trevor Lawrence, and even that really didn't work out until they got Doug Peterson down there.
Yep.
Yeah.
They had Urban Meyer, and the finger guns at the chop pass.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. But so my bold prediction, which I don't actually,
It's bold for a reason.
Yeah. Common sense tells me they won't, just based on all things considered in the way things are looking up. Another guy who I know played ball with, who is not being talked about. Obviously, he's not a Power 5 guy. He played at D2 school. Is Tyson Bagent.
Okay.
And again, this doesn't mean anything for hardly anybody unless you know the guy, but I think he's the guy who could get drafted and not be an actual undrafted free agent. The dude lit it up in D2. He was a Harlan Hill winner. He set almost every record there was in Division II.
Is it quarterback?
Quarterback.
Okay.
He's 6'2", like 210, 215. He's bigger than Bryce Young.
Yeah.
He can make every throw. He's just a ball player.
Yeah.
I've seen it firsthand. And then obviously from afar after my time there had passed and, I'm on to other things. But that's a name to watch out for in the late rounds. Obviously that means probably nothing to 99% of the people out there. But if you are familiar with the guy, don't be surprised if he goes 6th, 7th round and ends up having a good career in the NFL, if not starting. Like a Taylor Heineke, Carolina had him and a couple years back, and he's made a name for himself. He was a guy out of ODU. He went to the XFL. He has a cool story. But if you watched his tape in college and things like that, I mean, the dude lit it up. They were high octane offense. They were throwing the ball all over the yard. I mean, he's a guy, and he's not the most flashy guy. He's not the biggest. He doesn't have the biggest arm, but he's a winner.
Yeah.
And
Bailey Zappi vibes.
Exactly. And there's just certain guys have that it factor in terms of they can get the job done that people play for on the team, that rally the troops, so to speak. And so that's another thing I would just say look out for in late rounds. Just if you're still tuned in, I know a lot of people after your first, second round you kind of tune out, but late round guy, Tyson Bagent from Shepherd University, quarterback. I could see him getting drafted somewhere. Hope he does. He's a good dude, stud ball player. So that's kind of something I'm looking out for, just from afar. Fan from afar. But
love to see it. Yeah. Love to see it. I've got a very niche bold prediction. It's draft related. It's Patriots related.
Nice.
And it's Oklahoma Sooners related.
I
have New England taking at least 2 Oklahoma Sooners in the draft this year. At least one of them being a consistent starter.
All right. Nice.
And if you want me to put a name, Michael Turk.
Oh,
punter.
Oh,
hey, no BS. An important position. Special teams is a third of the game, and they're a weapon. You can win field position, and Bill Belichick's all about his special teams, man. I would not be surprised.
And with that Patriots offense, we know that the punter's going to be extra important.
That might be their saving grace.
I tell you, after Bailey, Bailey's his last name. My Bailey now is always Zappy, but Bailey is the last name of the punter that we had that went to the Pro Bowl when we picked him up in the first for his first year, and then he had an off year, and then he got hurt, and he came back this year and he looked good, and then he got hurt again, and then he badmouthed Bill Belichick saying you shouldn't be making me do squats, so he suspended him, and now he's a New York Jet. And we had Michael Pilardi punting for us, if you want to call
Carolina Panthers for a season or two, I believe.
Yeah, he. I don't know what you would call that. It wasn't punting though. It was
shanking.
It was kicking the ball in a direction that was prayerfully going to the other team.
Yeah.
And our special teams were bottom of the league. It's been the first time in a long time, and we were kind of mid the year before. So Bill Belichick has already made some moves this year with some of the signings that are kind of going under the radar. There's a Chris Board is a linebacker from the Lions that we picked up that is almost solely a special teams guy. If you want to know what he feels about his special teams versus defense, he let Devin McCourty retire. Matthew Slater is back for another umpteenth year. So we're going to be hopefully just at least a middling special teams, and I hope you eat your words, Mr. Hound. I hope that the punter never comes out the entire season, and Mac Jones throws for 6,500 yards and wins MVP. Ramondre Stevenson goes 2,000, 1,000.
Yeah. Well, see, we didn't even have the punter on the field for the majority of our games. We just let him go home during games because we knew we weren't going to have to punt. Yeah. So,
and your kicker, getting Tynes back in. It seems like all three of these teams have some sort of connections. I mean, Carolina drafted Butker back in the day at I think it was Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
dude's got an absolute boot.
Did Gano beat him out? Was that?
And Graham Gano had a rocket for a leg too, and he was solid. But again, it hurts to see. things turn out. And, we missed the playoffs this year because of a BS call, might I add, from DJ Moore taking his helmet off in the Falcons game.
Yeah.
Missing the extra point. So we were basically an extra point away from winning the division going in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
It's funny how the NFL's got a sense of humor that way. And just
Yeah. The script is very funny.
Yeah. That's true.